room dedicated to our employees at the current time. So you do jump ahead, but if there's another county employee in that exam room when you get there, you have to wait. So call ahead, and the services are still all the same. But once we get, and this is not on our update, but since we're on that topic, once we get moved, we're going to be down in the strip mall in the area next to Kroger. We will be in a brand new dedicated space. There'll be a new window there, which will identify where you check in for our employees. But in that space, you'll come into a main door, turn one way for the clinic, turn the opposite direction, and you're going to have all of the labs there. So if they order lab work for you, you can walk down the hallway and get all your lab work done. So that's going to be a great addition for us when that new space is done.
So just curious on this brick building adjacent to the hospital, when you say that, I think Fairmore Center. Is it not the Fairmore?
Not Fairmore, it's just the smaller
It's one
story brick building.
131 Ewing. So that's
okay.
the address.
I see where you're talking about.
The other end of
A
the
lot of doctors' offices are in that building.
Yes, we're on one of the far ends.
131 North Ewing.
Yeah,
Suite A.
correct.
And they do have like one of those big signs out front that says urgent care.
Yeah.
Urgent care.
Yeah, but we have a dedicated exam room within urgent care. When we move to the new space, they're telling us July. However, we've been told that the existing tenant may move as soon as April. So once they get it built out, then we'll be in that new space before the end of the year. So,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. So we're going to give a quick update on human resources today. I think we've got how many slides? 4 or 3?
3?
3 whole slides for everybody. So it's not going to be anything tedious if we can get it to go. Michelle, will you hit it for me, please? Okay, great. Thanks, Stacy.
Shoot
So-
from the hip, shoot from the hip.
Shoot from the hip. All right, there we go. All right. I wanted to talk first off about some of the new electronic I-9 processes that are going to be put in place. For those of you who don't know what an I-9 is, and it's an employee eligibility form, you probably filled one out when you started and never gave it a thought after that. However, the federal government verifies that you're eligible for employment through the use of that form. And that form, if not filled out correctly, has hefty fines associated with it. And so what I would tell you is that you can have up to $250 fine multiple places within the form if you have technical errors within the form. Say a particular area of an I-9 eligibility form is not filled out correctly, it could be a $250 fine. 252 actually. So when you add that up, that we have 900 employees, let's say there was a single error on every form, you're looking at a potential liability of $226,000. However, you can have multiple places within those forms that have, oh, you guys can't see it up there. It's all back here. There we go. You can have multiple places within those forms that have potential areas that can be fined. What we are going to be doing this year, which is an undertaking, is we're going to be moving to an electronic I-9 process with the assistance of Equifax, who is also our provider of our ID Watchdog identity theft protection. What this process will allow is a more accurate and auditable process for the government and us to make sure that our I-9 eligibility is completely correct. So what we will be doing beginning March 3rd is all new hires will be going through an electronic I-9 process. No longer will there be a paper form. They will have that presented to them electronically, and then that form, if there are any errors, can be resubmitted to them, and that will be complete. What we will also be doing as part of this process is that we're going to audit and have remediation of all our existing I-9s. So for our 900 and some odd employees, we're going to go back through, look at those written forms, We're going to ultimately remediate any errors. We'll do that by having a new form filled out, and those will all be taken electronically into the system and will be handled by Equifax going forward. And what we're doing with this process, not only are we remediating the issue, we're also transferring potential risk to Equifax. They will be responsible for those forms going forward. They will be responsible once those forms are uploaded. If there are any errors, anything like that, the potential fines will rest with the vendor versus us. So I know that this is not a scintillating topic, but in reality, this is us taking existing processes, making them better, making them more accurate, and allowing for the county to remove themselves from liability on a significant issue. So we're pretty excited about that process. One of the things that I think will excite our employees a little bit is the new works number, which will be associated with this process. What the works number will be an 800 number that employees will provide as part of loan applications or employment verification processes. Equifax is going to take that over from us. Payroll currently had been doing that work in verifying that somebody's employed or that they're employed for purposes of a loan. That's a tedious process sometimes because those requests can come in at any time from a potential lender. You largely see this in the case of when people are getting a mortgage. But this new 800 number will launch in April. Our employees will be provided that information. They can put that number down, and then Equifax will handle verifying their employment going forward. So that's a great thing for everybody, and it will start April 1st. So we will be moving toward that rather quickly. We're going to be providing updates on those issues also in the leadership conference and also at a roundtable. So we're trying to communicate all of these things out multiple times to everybody.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
When that system is up and running and a potential lender or whomever calls this 1-800 number to Equifax to verify employment, is it envisioned that Equifax would already have everything they would need to answer that question, or does Equifax then call payroll to verify?
Everybody should already have that information at Equifax. We're going to be doing uploads to them pretty regularly, like we already do with our identity theft protection, as we do with any vendor associated with benefits. We upload sometimes as frequently as every 2 weeks updated information to the vendors to make sure they have the accurate information about our employee enrollments and also their employee status. So it's envisioned that Equifax will have everything they need in that process to get that done without intervening here with the auditor's office or HR. Yep. So additionally, personnel policy manual. We will be, these are some of the things that we've been working on. I wanted to give you a brief update. Personnel policy manual, we will be moving to present updates. They're going to be minimal this year, March 7th, at the March 7th meeting, so that the commissioners can take a look at those, and then we'll be submitting those for approval thereafter. We anticipate very minimal changes. There's going to be one change that I believe it's been suggested by the auditor's office related to removing issues associated with frequent flyer miles. I think there's a provision in the policy manual that says that frequent flyer miles can't be used. That's not something that can be tracked when people utilize a credit card for a purchase. That's not something that can be tracked, so that's going to be removed. And we're also just highlighting a couple of other verbiage changes in HR. We are going through the policy manual at our weekly meeting to make sure that things are current as far as each section goes. In relation to the stop loss pool, the new stop loss pool is up and running, so to speak. We've made our initial deposit from our reserve into the sub-fund, which was $2 million. We're currently working with the actuary to determine what our annual payment into the sub-fund should be. And we anticipate that deposit will take place probably sometime in the next few months. We haven't had anything go against the stop loss at this point. It's early in the year, but recognize that we have assumed the risk up to $500,000. So that is moving along at this current time. One of the things that we will be putting together is a risk committee associated with the stop loss pool. The risk committee will evaluate where we are on a quarterly basis in a meeting with the actuary to make sure that we are adequately funded and also that we are addressing any potential risks. This will include looking at claims that may be bumping up against stop loss. I don't want to make anybody worried. We don't look at individual claims information necessarily. We have de-identified information associated with claims, largely just dollar amounts associated with that, so that we can make informed decisions about where we need to be with stop loss going forward. One of the
Can I
other...
ask you a question on that?
Sure.
Is a potential stop loss exposure analogous to like a train coming down the tracks? In other words, you can kind of see that coming. You have data that would alert you to that possibility.
So to give you some perspective about the self-funded claims process, each week I receive an updated high dollar amount claim notice from United Healthcare. They track any claims that initially go over $25,000. So we have that first notice that there's a potential high dollar claim over $25,000. Our stop loss generally kicks in at $250,000. So we are able to track each of those high dollar claims as they proceed through the system. As we're getting closer to that $250,000 mark, we have a quarterly report that lists all of those out. And we can see those as they're coming down the track towards us. That's generally when you see me in a mood of like, my hands on the desk, white knuckled. But that's something to be expected. We have folks who have health issues, and we are able to deal with those and manage that process. And thanks to the commissioners for putting us on this path when we went self-funded. I mean, it's been able to be an experience where we have some able to exercise some control over our destiny with our health insurance and what we can provide to our employees. And speaking of which, one of the good things that we've been able to provide to our employees, and I think everybody is probably largely in agreement with it, is our Virgin Pulse fitness and wellness app that we have provided to everybody. As you know, we had a challenge that took place in December for our employees associated with Virgin Pulse. And we were able to provide incentives to employees who participated in that process. 23,750,000 steps in that challenge. So put it into perspective, our employees walked about 10,500 miles during that time. We just started the new challenge for the spring. That challenge ends on March 6th. Everybody is taking a bit of a tour of Hawaii as we speak. I'm only on Maui, so that tells you where I am. That was the second place you could go. But it's allowing folks to have some motivation, have some ability to improve their health and wellness, take a break, step out, enjoy the ability to feel a little bit better. Some people will take the stairs. Some people will park a little further out and walk to their car. We have some folks who are high-end steppers. Let's put it this way. We have hundreds of thousands of steps that they've taken. If you join the challenge, you can see everybody in there. Corey Clark's one of those people who has taken a lot of steps. But I'm encouraged by this. I will tell you that we have been able to give everybody 1,500 points who participate. So even if you are not eligible for one of the incentives, you should get on the app, get in there so you can get your 1,500 points added to your total. And ultimately, at the end of the year, you will likely see some HRA dollars associated with your points total that will go into your HRA. This is one way that we've been able to incent employees to get a little bit better by putting some money in their HRA and getting them to be able to also use that money for things like having a no copay visit with their doctor, do something that they wouldn't normally do, get their glasses updated, get their teeth cleaned. Those are the types of things that we want to incent our employees to do. So ultimately, Virgin Pulse and the HRA have been a wonderful way that we've been able to get our employees motivated.
Guys, a question on Virgin Pulse.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, which I know was kind of an abbreviated year for Virgin Pulse or whatever, when I got to the end of the year, I had accumulated enough points for, it said like $30. I might have the number wrong, but I think it was a $30 threshold or whatever. And then the calendar turned over and I started anew, to accumulate points or whatever, and I go in and I put my stuff in every day and all that. That $30 at the end of the last year, did that automatically just go to the card, or did I need to do something to cause that transfer to occur?
You didn't need to do anything. It went to the card. They took we let everybody have until December 31st. So we needed about a 3-week turnaround with United Healthcare to get that accomplished, but it should be on there for you now, in addition to any of the monies that you didn't expend from the $500 that were initially put on there from last year.
And then similarly this year, there's nothing that anybody needs to do other than go through and accumulate your points, and then that'll all just happen. You don't need to go in and say, like, I want to transfer my accumulated reward to my card. That just happens.
It just happens, and you don't need to do anything about it. And a couple of other points about this, we're trying to make the process related to the biometric screens an easier process. And we're also looking at an option this year to allow people to also take a physical and receive points for taking a physical. And something that people should know is everybody thinks, well, if I go and have an annual physical, I'm going to have costs associated with that from my doctor. You can get a free physical at the wellness clinic. So you can make an appointment and get one there too. So as we move through the year, we're going to be evaluating what points are going to associate with what dollar values as well. And Commissioner Levacy.
So maybe Dr. Brown would like to share how many steps she's done lately.
This morning or? This morning or?
No. What you've done in the recent past.
I don't know. It's millions. I
Yeah, I know, but.
This morning it was 18,000.
26-mile marathon you ran.
Yeah.
I'm still amazed by that.
It's always good to hear people's fitness journeys and wellness journeys. And I know that Amy Brown Thompson is one of our people who are religiously out there moving along, and so are so many of the people in this room. Even I find myself as sedentary as I can be, walking more often than I used to. So I think that we're all trying a little bit as part of the process. So just so you know, keep listening for updates with Virgin Pulse. We're going to try to make it as fresh and fun as possible throughout the year and make sure that we get people motivated and move that along. So a couple of quick upcoming events that we're going to have. Can we hit the slide again if we could?
One more?
Yeah, I think there's one more. Oh, that's it. Okay, so we'll give the quick updates. We're going to have a combined HR, IT, and payroll education opportunity on March 6th for our payroll and HR professionals out there, and also bring IT into that so that we can have group together to go over some of the things associated with electronic I-9s and a whole host of other issues. So that's going to be taking place. Our county leadership training is going to be May 23rd. So watch for updates associated with that. That's going to be a good opportunity to hear about some of the new things that are going to be happening. And our employee recognition event, which is especially something that everybody looks forward to, is going to be on August 1st. And we are hoping that, we're going to have a good turnout. We're going to have that event here over on the lawn on the side of the building this year. We're going to change up the location and, get to show off the new building exterior to everybody. And we're really looking forward to that. So if there are no other questions, that's largely it.
I'm good, and I really appreciate your update, Commissioner Levesey.
I don't, Jeff, as you know, my feelings about your good work, continue to do good work, and I really appreciate all your efforts.
Oh, thank you. It's not just me, it's the whole team. I couldn't do any of this without these people, and also the support of all of the department heads and their staff. I mean, we're all in this together, so we value their feedback, and we want to do what we can to move everything forward for everybody.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Jeff on HR and health insurance issues? Buddy, we sure appreciate you.
Thanks.
This time, the commission sets aside an opportunity for voters and taxpayers to address the commission. If you'd like to do so, please begin by stating your name and residential address. We do have a 3-minute guideline, which we would appreciate your courtesy on. Is there anyone who would like to address the commission under those terms and conditions? Well, hearing none, we still thank you all for coming. Anything on legal? Administration update.
All right, ARP update from the 30.6 received. We have appropriated 22.2, 11.5 has been expended, and 4.2 encumbered or obligated. Just an update on the transit governance structure evaluation study that we are doing. A contract with RLS and Associates is currently under review with the prosecutor's office, and anticipate an administrative approval taking place this week, and then following up with conversation with RLS about scheduling kickoff and understanding timeline.
Yeah, and Ani and I talked a little bit today. One of the things we're looking at is the timing kind of and format of a form of transit summit, if you will, where there are many entities and agencies that have a relationship to the provision of transit service. Center for Disabilities, Veterans, JFS, local transit, probably others I'm not thinking of. And then there are also many agencies and organizations that have a role in the need in trying to, that have clients or constituents who need those services. And we're just trying to think through the timing and format for ultimately putting those folks together as part of this process for understanding what the impediment is, how it's currently being covered, maybe how it should be covered in the future. Thank you, Ani.
Yeah, and thanks to Amy and Stephen with the prosecutor's office for their work and doing a little pre-evaluation of that contract to make that go smoother. Couple updates from CCAO regarding the budget process, and have Jeremiah and Dr. Brown here who might want to comment after I go through this. But House Bill 1 was introduced into the House last week and is a top priority for the Majority Caucus, and does appear to be a stepping stone for the elimination of the state income tax, as well as making a number of changes to property taxes. CCIO does have concerns about impact of the bill on Ohio's property tax system, and they are engaging with the bill sponsors and interested parties to understand that full impact for the state income tax piece of it, for the tax brackets for tax year 22, then in tax year 23, and thereafter estimates all eliminates all but one bracket Under the bill, beginning in tax year 23, Ohioans will pay no income tax on their first $26,050 of income, and then pay the sum of $360.69 plus 2.7% of their taxable income above that $26,550. It also is making changes to Ohio's property tax system, kind of three major portions of the bill. The first eliminates the Class 1 or residential and agricultural 10% property tax rollback and changes the owner-occupied 2.5% credit to a flat $125 per year. The state currently does reimburse taxing districts for both of these credits. The rollback was put in place when Ohio first instituted an income tax, and the rollback was modified in 13, so it not applied to new or replacement levies. It is expected that these changes will reduce state expenditures by approximately $1.2 billion per year. The second piece, the bill is modifying the homestead credit that is available to homeowners who are disabled or age 65 and over and have income lower than the statutory threshold. The bill indexes the current $25,000 valuation exemption for inflation and creates an enhanced valuation exemption of $50,000 for individuals who have owned their homes for at least 20 years. And then lastly, the third change would be a statewide valuation assessment rate moving from 35% to 31.5% for the first tax year the bill is effective, and then lowers the assessment rate for inflation on subsequent years, with the assessment rate being capped at 31.5%. It's intended to reduce or eliminate the financial impact on property owners for that elimination of the residential credit. This temporary law language in the bill states that it's the intent of the General Assembly to appropriate funds in fiscal years 24 and 25 to local governments that are impacted, but there's no specifics on the amount of assistance or whether this would continue beyond the biennium. This is where CCAO is wanting to learn more. And the second one that is before the legislature right now that they're working through are the force account amendments that were offered for consideration in the transportation budget. So I know, Jeremiah, you've talked about this in the past, but looking to up that monetary threshold for the force accounts. And this has been, I think, a joint advocacy with county commissioners and engineers. And then on the previous issue, CCAO is working with the County Auditors Association as well. So I don't know if either of you want to add.
Dr. Brown.
So I think that, certainly a bill looks a little different in the end than when it begins. So I'm sure there'll be some adjustments. But it's a remarkable programmatic change for property taxes because the variable that's being adjusted isn't the rate, it's the assessed valuation. So it's a dramatic change in how that formula reduces a tax bill. So the end result, the conclusion is there would be a cap on how much one would pay. The subsidiary results of that would be the elimination of anything that's known as a replacement levy. You would only have new or renewals with increases. So you will see more things on the ballot for entities like a township because they don't have any other avenues. And then the schools, I think, will be the subdivisions that Ani is speaking about that will have some concern because there's a made whole provision, but you don't know how long that made whole will stay around.
So in terms of, and I understand, a little bit about how a bill becomes a law,
Yeah.
but if we were to fast forward to, say, for example, enactment, is it as simple as saying that in terms of projecting property tax revenue for the county, that we take a 4% hit, or is that just too simplified?
Yeah, it's too simplified. It's too simplified.
Okay. Jeremiah, anything on force account?
The valuation assessment, it appears to me as if it will vary from county to county with a cap at 31. So that's a little bit of a difficult thing to explain to folks, but it's difficult to explain now. So I see merit in it. I may be in the minority in terms of seeing merit in that, but I think it does give some stability and has the end result of keeping the amounts that are paid down a bit more, especially for growing areas. It'll be more difficult for areas that aren't growing. For rural areas that are outside of central Ohio that aren't growing, they'll have a different feeling about this than for folks that are like in Fairfield County. They're going to be far more welcoming of it.
Thank you. Jeremiah, anything on force?
Just a reminder again, force accounts are a limit on what we can do financially or cost-wise with a project before we have to bid it. So for instance, if we're working on a bridge, if that bridge costs $99,999, I'm allowed to have my forces work on that bridge. If it's $100,000 or over, I am required by law to bid that to a contractor. So obviously that gets a lot more expensive. The problem with the force count, not only are they forcing us to do something that we're capable of doing with our own forces, also those limits have not been increased since 2003. So we've had 20 years of inflation at the same number, and obviously I can't do now on a bridge with $100,000 what can be done 20 years ago. So we're in a, kind of a desperate fight here with the Contractors Association to get some reasonable increases to that done. Thank you.
Mr. Levis, anything on either of those issues?
So I'm kind of curious, was there any number in that House bill that they were looking at for forced accounts?
$300,000 for bridges, $150,000 for roads. And there's also talk of a scoping limitation being implemented instead of a dollar amount. So
did they also increase for townships?
yes, townships are included in this.
Yeah, it's, I'm kind of curious to how, you mentioned, Dr. Brown, that schools would be made whole, but, that can't go on forever, right?
That's a realistic concern.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
undivided local government fund was to
$3 million at one time. Is
coerce counties into supporting a sales tax when it was first initiated, and then, somewhere along the way, they elect Governor Kasich and takes a hatchet to it. So there's the promise, and the promise disappears. Please continue.
Okay, all right, moving on to highlights of resolutions. The review packet contains a list of administrative approvals, and there are 21 resolutions for the voting meeting today. Just a few of note, we do have a resolution authorizing the approval of a proclamation for Allen Chapel in recognition of their open house and historical sign placement, and that open house is taking place this Saturday from 1 to 3, and I believe Commissioner Levis is planning to attend that. We also have a resolution for a special revenue fund for the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services, ARPA Court Backlog Reduction Grant Agreement. This is with DR Court, so they can be receiving of that grant. And there are 4 resolutions for approval of conditional acceptance of the Heron Crossing West subdivision from regional planning. And lastly, 2 that I'll point out, resolutions from IT, 1 to purchase Dell equipment for the server and 1 for IBM equipment for server cluster infrastructure. Dan, anything to add to that?
No. Thanks.
Needed infrastructure.
Yep.
All right, budget review. Bart?
The Fairfield County Fiscal Committee met last Thursday. I want to thank those that attended. We discussed in that meeting some training issues, or not training issues, some training. We talked about some best practices, as well as talked about the 2024 fiscal meetings. We also talked about a Fairfield County fiscal reporting group that we're putting together to kind of address some of the things that we're all kind of looking forward to try and improve on fiscal reporting. And lastly, I'd like to thank Dr. Brown and her staff for analyzing and adjusting the budgets for the homestead and property taxes, which have been adjusted up about $1.5 million, a little under $1.5 million.
All right, recognition. Treasurer Bonson thanked the treasurer's staff for all their hard work and a successful first half property tax collection, and also thanked the Commissioner's office for staffing the information desk and helping to direct taxpayers to their new location. Folks are creatures of habit and really wanted to get up to that second floor, but thanks to the staff for helping them locate the treasurer's team there. County Auditor Dr. Brown thanked Robin Balthaser, Noel Sodders, Josh Harper for following up with good informed community referrals for residents during appraisal activity. County Auditor Dr. Brown thanked Keith Tremblay and Jennifer Beckley Watson with Juvenile Court for sharing their series on expanding resiliency. And thanks to Becky Shade with the library for hosting the series. County Auditor Dr. Brown thanked Chris Wagner for organizing a new process for updating estimated property tax revenues and recording those estimates more efficiently for Adam HDD, JFS, and others. With centralized adjustments, the new process will improve efficiency for departments. And then lastly, County Auditor Dr. Brown thanked the County Auditor's team for completing all custodial financial reports in record time and well ahead of deadlines. Rochelle, calendar review and invitations received, please.
Give me just a minute on that. I want to go back to budget review and give Dr. Brown an opportunity to comment on the changes that you made.
The changes relate to the increased estimated revenue for property taxes, largely due to the triennial update. Had an estimate in there of an additional $1 million, and we added more for rollback and homestead, as well as for the regular property tax once we got the final numbers from the state. I believe there will be some additional adjustments. Some will go down, some will go up, and I think it'll be net in the positive, waiting a bit so it maintains net in the positive and not adjusting too soon for some of the other streams such as sales tax, jail rental, and potentially conveyance fees, a few other adjustments.
Yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning that. I was pleased with the property tax news, I guess, in my mind, when I looked forward to potential variations in the projections. I was kind of focused on sales tax, jail rental, and conveyance. Property tax wasn't really on my radar for the kind of adjustment that was just made, so it was kind of thrilling. I mean, I understand nobody gets thrilled about numbers, but I kind of do sometimes.
So the original increase was based upon history alone, and the final increase is based upon what we know today, as of today.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your staying on top of that. Thank you for that. And then back to Rochelle.
All right, the commissioners have the land bank meeting today at 11 a.m. here in this room. The Lancaster State of the City address and the Fairfield Medical Center Legendary Philanthropy Award open house and presentation, both on February 23rd, which is this coming Thursday. Also, the Child Abuse Prevention Month Awareness Breakfast on April 12th at 8 a.m. That is a new invitation. For correspondence, we have the news release from the Ohio Department of Development on February 7th, 2023, heating assistance available through HEAP Winter Crisis Program. Another news release from the Ohio Department of Development, same date, from Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. Fairfield Soil and Water Conservation District, Fairfield features their newsletter, their February edition. The Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, their newsletter named Imagine, and also their February newsletter. A memo from County Auditor Dr. Carrie Brown, dated February 15th, subjects updated estimates of property taxes, draft letter of agreement for services of fiscal officer for MCJDC, financial reports for agencies and custodial funds, House Bill 1 introduced to lower state income tax rates and change property tax law. That's it.
Thanks, Rochelle. Jail population last week, the sheriff reported it was at 227 with 15 of those being contracted. Today, 248 with 18 being contracted placements. That's all I have. Thank you.
Could you give me those numbers again? I was distracted.
Yes, last week 227, 15. This week 248, 18.
Thank you. Excuse me. Moving on to old business. Is there any old business? Dr. Brown?
Yeah, I have the copy of the agreement for the fiscal officers that you can take a look at and review. It can be added to the contract when the time is right. And Commissioner Fix and I haven't talked about this, but he had provided my name to some folks at CCAO about a strategic planning seminar. So I brought the slideshow I printed to present so he can take a look at that. And then we are doing a lot of different outreach with schools relating to Ohio history. And I brought several maps that I think Commissioner Levesey is going to be taking as part of that effort. One of the maps is, there's only one that exists. It's a copy. There's only one that exists in the entire world of that particular original map from the refugees from Canada. at the time of the Revolutionary War. So it's very interesting. So I just brought several copies of the historic maps that I thought Commissioner Levesey might want for the Millersport Schools presentation.
So if I may.
Oh, please, Commissioner Levesey under old business.
So as Dr. Brown mentioned, I've requested a few maps, in particular the Buckeye Lake area, as it was historically affected by the canal system. I've been requested by the history teacher in high school to do a class on that. So it'll be interesting, but also there's a lot of history starting back to about 1837.
That's some typos.
And deep cut in Buckeye Lake being a feeder canal lake. And what's interesting about Buckeye Lake, it actually sets on a summit, a plateau, if you will, not real high, but so water can actually drain both directions, and that was very important for the canal system to be able to walk through. So thank you, Dr. Brown.
I think the refugee map I learned a lot from looking at that and reading about it. And I never learned that in Ohio history, so it's kind of a forgotten bit of history.
Now, that was the refugee tract that was Congress gave immigrants from Canada that supported the war effort. And so it's
Hence the name Refugee Road.
Refugee Road.
Why we have one in Fairfield and Lincoln County.
right.
Yep.
And so it's the area between those two roads that was part of that tract.
That's this one.
So that's also one of the original surveys in Ohio, which Ohio was kind of the testing ground for how they were going to split land up going forward. So you could see as they came through Ohio, working from the southeast to the northwest, things progressively got more, rectangular, triangle, and square, and a whole lot easier for surveyors to deal with the rest of the state. And then that proceeded all the way out west.
It's always interesting when you read some of the original documents because they're calling Ohio the West. Ohio is the West.
Staying under old business, a number of us got to take a tour this past week of Aligard, a company that's kind of new to Lancaster and Fairfield County. They bought an existing company and now they're hoping to expand on that. It was really neat to go on that tour and hear some people be very enthusiastic about their growth plans and some of the job opportunities that will continue to grow there. So I was really enjoying that. Also got to attend the opening of the Emergency Services Building, I think it's called. Some of us will just call it the SWAT Building. What was neat about that is a fairly large number of officers attended that opening, and they were so appreciative and excited about that new facility. I heard things about the old facility that day that I had not previously heard. I don't know if people just didn't want to be too negative about their existing situation until they were out of it, and now all kinds of fun things about that building are being made known to me anyway. But that was just a neat moment for people to share, and so I was really pleased to be a part of that. Finally, at least for me anyway, under old business, Dr. Brown's edits have been incorporated into the most recent draft of the MCJDC potential agreement, including the exhibit, which I had an opportunity to review this morning. Thank you for that. And thanks, of course, to Ani Cordo for putting it together. And we'll finalize that draft today, and perhaps in the near term, day or so, start getting that out to some of our members for review. Again, heading towards the potential adoption of an agreement like the one we're drafting or so very similar to it in May.
think circulating to the auditors would come after that. I think it would come after that. Do you think we need to circulate prior? Circulate amongst the commissioners first for general thought, then to the auditors, then to everybody. I'll wait for you, then I won't circulate anything.
That would be my thought, just to, I think the unanimous consent of the auditors, I certainly don't want to take it for granted, but I think if this is likely to get stuck on a hill, it's going to be a different hill. Anything else under old business?
Yeah, if I may.
Jeremiah?
On February 27th, Liberty Township is having a meeting to discuss the possibilities of development moving forward in that township, and I've been invited by the trustees to talk a little bit about our connector road idea and things like that. So I'll do my best to relay to them what the position of the commissioners are and myself, and that's to just stay ahead of development to make sure that when it comes, we can do the right thing.
Thank you. I am aware of that meeting and do currently intend to be there as an observer at that meeting. I also had the chance this morning to review an 11-minute video that Commissioner Fix has prepared regarding prospective approaches to development, pro and con, and I thought he did a nice job in that video, and I think he's hopeful that they may show that from him. I don't think he could be there that night, but he wanted his thoughts to be there.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of what he's trying to do with that.
Yeah, I've spoken with him about that.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
So on to new business. I won't get into the details, but it was a moment for me and I wanted to share it. I had a really nice and lengthy conversation with Sheriff Lake this past week, where we really got granular on the sheriff's office and some operational details and funding issues. What was unique to me about that is, and I don't certainly ever mean disrespect to any prior sheriffs that I've worked with, but getting granular on operational details and finances wasn't something they were terribly interested in doing. So to have a sheriff so accessible on those kinds of issues to a commissioner it felt a little bit new to me, and in that regard I wanted to mention it under new business. Is there any other new business that anybody would like to bring the attention to the commission? Commissioner Levacy.
Yeah, I will mention, it's talked about earlier about Allen Chapel. And what's really unique about that is that was founded in 1817 and been in existence. I think the current building was built in 1849, I believe. I may not be right on that, but it's been in disrepair for as long as I can remember. And the folks there at Allen Chapel struggled to get it rehabilitated, if you will, and re-sided, and a new foundation built, and the electrical brought up to code, and so on and so forth. So a lot of community members stepped in and helped with that project. And so I'm just real excited about the folks at Allen Chapel and being able to see this in the rearview mirror, that they now have a building they can count on for the next many decades. So happy to go.
Thank you, sir. Any other new business? Dr. Brown.
I brought several brochures from Destination Downtown that has a map and several different notations of events, and thought it might be great to have here in this building too.
All right, well, thank you for doing that.
And it's Mardi Gras. You might want to go out.
Okay, you mentioned Mardi Gras. I wasn't going to tell this story, but now I am. So yesterday morning, I woke up to news that 5 people had been shot at the pre-parade, if you will, and 1 person killed. And so I immediately texted my son, Ben, to just make sure he's okay, because he's at Mardi Gras with a friend. And so the next 2 hours was just kind of horrible, because he didn't respond for 2 hours. So all the negative thoughts that you can imagine are going through my head about my hemophiliac son being shot in New Orleans. Ben's safe. He's fine and enjoying the party in New Orleans in good health. Any other new business? Well, hearing none, we'll move on to our voting pattern. You know what?
You can do it.
Please rise if you're able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That is not a new thing where we don't go up for that. I just didn't feel like it today. Rochelle, do we have any announcements?
No, there are no announcements.
Move on to the approval minutes for February 14th, 2023.
So moved.
Second discussion, please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Minutes passed 2-0. From the Fairfield County Commissioners, Resolution 2023-2.21.a, a resolution authorizing the approval of a proclamation.
So moved.
Am I looking at the wrong agenda?
Okay, I can do that replacement.
Second discussion, please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion passes 2-0. From Fairfield County Domestic Relations Court, Resolution 2023-2.21.b, a resolution for the creation of a new special revenue fund to account for the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services American Rescue Plan Act, Court Backlog Reduction Grant Agreement activities, and the approval of a revenue and expenditure budget for appropriating from unappropriated into a major expense object category.
So moved.
Second discussion, please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion passes 2-0. From Fairfield County Engineer, Resolution 2023-2.21.c, a resolution to request for appropriations for additional and unanticipated receipts of memo receipts and memo expenses for Fund 3445 BLO 36 bridge replacement.
Under Fairfield County Engineer, I move Resolution C, D, E, F, and G.
Second discussion,
Happy to answer any questions that you have.
further discussion, please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion's passed 3-0. From Fairfield County Family, Adult, and Children First Council, Resolution 2023-2.21.h, a resolution to amend the certificate, update receipt line item, and request for appropriations for Fund Number 7521, Family, Adult, Children First Council.
So moved.
Second discussion,
To increase our materials and supply for parent education by workloads for our classes.
thank you. Further discussion, please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0. For Fairfield County Information Technology, Resolution 2023-2.21.i, a resolution to approve the purchase of Dell equipment for server compute by the Fairfield County Board of Commissioners from Mapsys Incorporated under State of Ohio Term Contract Number 534109.
Under Fairfield County Information Technologies, I move I and J.
Second discussion, please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion's passed 2-0. From Fairfield County Job and Family Services, Resolution 2023-2.21.k, a resolution to approve additional appropriations by appropriating from unappropriated into a major expense object category, Fund Number 2018 Public Assistance Fund.
Under Fairfield County Jobs and Family Services, I move Resolutions K, L, M, N, and O.
Second discussion, please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion's passed 2-0. From Fairfield County Juvenile Probate Court, Resolution 2023-2.21.p, A resolution to approve appropriations from unappropriated into a major expense object category, Fund Number 2076, in the JIT Guardianship Fund, and a fund-to-fund transfer.
So moved.
Second, discussion? Not really related to the legislation, but I did have an opportunity to see Magistrate Stitzman over the weekend briefly and conveyed to him the Commissioner's Office appreciation for his provision of data throughout the course of this year in terms of what was happening at MCJDC. That was really helpful for us to be able to track that through the year as we entered this negotiating year. So I don't recall having thanked him publicly for that previously, and wanted to make sure I did that at some point. Further discussion? Please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion passes 2-0. From Fairfield County Regional Planning Commission, Resolution 2023-2.21.Q. A resolution to approve conditional acceptance of the Huron Crossing West Section 1 Phases 1 and 2 subdivision, streets, storm sewers, water, and sanitary sewer improvements.
So under Fairfield County Regional Planning Commission, I move resolutions Q, R, S, and T.
Second, discussion? Please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion's passed 2-0. On payment of bills, Resolution 2023-2.21.U. A resolution authorizing the approval of payment of invoices for departments that need Board of Commissioners approval.
So moved.
Second, discussion? Please call to roll.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Motion passes 2-0. The next regular meeting is scheduled for February 28th at 9 a.m.
Is there any other issue item that anybody would like to bring to the attention of the Commission at this time? Couple of footnotes. There remains some treats for people if you would like them on your way out. What you don't take hopefully will be there for the land bank folks that will join us at 11. The second issue is normally we go from one meeting to the next, and there's no time in between. At this point, there's an hour before the land bank meeting, which I will be around and in my office. If anybody has questions, comments, or concerns, and anything they'd like to see me about, there's a great big chance right there. Any other issue item? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. The commission is adjourned, and we thank you all for coming. Hope you have a good day.
Good job, Jeff Porter.
Good job.
You can tell Fix that he's the one that drags it.
What if you text Fix?
Yeah, okay.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to take a picture of you guys.
I like the electronic process.